Husband confessed during a family dinner that he always wished he married my best friend, so I packed my things and left. But now he's begging me to come back. I'm going to use pseudonyms to protect everyone's privacy. My name is Emily, and I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 12 years. We have 2 wonderful children, a son named Liam, who is 10, and a daughter named Sophie, who is 7. My best friend since college is Jessica. We've been inseparable since we met, and has been a significant part of our family's life. Last weekend, we hosted a family dinner at our home to celebrate Mark's recent promotion. We invited our close family members and, of course, Jessica. The evening started beautifully. Laughter filled the room, the kids were playing happily, and the atmosphere was warm and joyful. After dinner, Mark stood up to make a toast. He clinked his glass, and everyone turned their attention to him. He began by thanking everyone for coming and expressing how grateful he was for all the support he'd received. Then his tone shifted. "You know," he said, "life is funny. Sometimes we make choices, and we wonder what could have been if we'd chosen differently." A murmur went through the room, and I felt a knot forming in my stomach. He continued, "Jessica, you've been a dear friend to both Emily and me. Sometimes I think about how things might have been if you and I had ended up together." The room fell into an uncomfortable silence. My heart dropped. I could see Jessica's face turn pale, her eyes wide with shock. My mother gasped, and my father looked at Mark with disbelief. "Mark, what are you saying?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He shrugged, seemingly oblivious to the gravity of his words. "I'm just saying that sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Jessica and I have so much in common." Tears welled up in my eyes. I felt a mix of humiliation, anger, and heartbreak. Without saying another word, I stood up and left the table. I heard Jessica call after me, but I couldn't face anyone at that moment. I went upstairs, grabbed a suitcase, and started throwing clothes into it. Mark followed me into the bedroom. "What are you doing?" he asked, sounding more annoyed than concerned. "I'm leaving," I said curtly. "I can't stay here after what you just said." Don't be dramatic, Emily. It was just a thought. Nothing's happened between Jessica and me." I spun around to face him. "Whether or not anything has happened, you just told our entire family that you wish you'd married my best friend. Do you have any idea how that makes me feel?" He sighed. "Look, I'm sorry if it came out wrong. I didn't mean to hurt you." I shook my head, zipping up my suitcase. "You've done enough. I need some time to think." I packed a bag for the kids and went downstairs. The guests were awkwardly milling about, unsure of what to do. Jessica approached me with tears in her eyes. "Emily, I had no idea he felt that way, I swear. I know," I interrupted, trying to muster a reassuring smile. "This isn't your fault." Jessica looked relieved but still concerned. "Is there anything I can do?" she asked softly. I shook my head. I just need some time to process everything." Gathering my composure, I walked over to the kids. "Liam, Sophie, grab your things. We're going to stay with Aunt Sarah for a little while." "Why, Mom?" Liam asked, his eyes filled with confusion. "Just a little family trip," I replied, trying to sound upbeat. As we left, Mark stood at the doorway. "Emily, please don't go. Let us talk about this." I paused for a moment. "We'll talk when I'm ready, Mark." At my sister Sarah's house, the kids settled in quickly, excited to spend time with their cousins. That night, after putting them to bed, I finally allowed myself to break down. Sarah sat beside me, offering silent support. Over the next few days, Mark bombarded me with calls and messages, begging for forgiveness. I needed space, so I turned off my phone. I spent time with my kids, took long walks, and tried to clear my head. Jessica sent me an email, pouring out her apologies and assuring me she had no idea Mark felt that way. She even offered to cut off contact if it would help. I believed her. Jessica had always been a loyal friend. A week later, I decided it was time to confront Mark. We agreed to meet at a local park where the kids often played. The autumn leaves crunched underfoot as we sat on a bench, a chilly breeze reminding me of the distance between us. "Emily, I'm so sorry," he began, his eyes pleading. "I was an idiot. I didn't mean any of it." "Then why say it, Mark?" I asked, my voice steady. "Why humiliate me in front of everyone we know?" He sighed deeply. "I've been struggling lately. Work has been stressful, and I guess I've been feeling unfulfilled. I thought achieving that promotion would make me happy, but it didn't. And how does wishing you married my best friend fit into that?" He looked down at his hands. "I think I was projecting my dissatisfaction. Jessica seems so carefree and adventurous. I felt like I was missing out." I stared at him incredulously. "So you thought confessing that in front of our families was the solution?" I wasn't thinking clearly. I realize now how hurtful and inappropriate it was. "I love you, Emily. I don't want to lose our family." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Mark, love isn't just about words. It's about respect and consideration. What you did showed a complete lack of both." He nodded slowly. "I know. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it up to you." "I'm not sure if that's possible," I admitted. "But for the sake of the kids, I'm willing to try counseling." Relief washed over his face. "Thank you. You won't regret this." The following weeks were challenging. We began attending couples therapy, where we unpacked years of unspoken frustrations and unmet expectations. Mark admitted that he had been envious of Jessica's lifestyle, but insisted he didn't have romantic feelings for her. I worked on expressing my feelings more openly, realizing that I'd often bottled things up to keep the peace. The therapist helped us develop better communication skills, but trust was harder to rebuild. One afternoon, Jessica showed up at my sister's doorstep. "Can we talk?" she asked hesitantly. I agreed, and we walked to a nearby cafe. Over steaming cups of coffee, she told me she had accepted a job offer abroad. "I think some distance would be good for everyone," she said. I felt a pang of sadness, but also relief. "I understand. I hope this new opportunity brings you happiness." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I truly value our friendship, Emily. I never wanted to come between you and Mark." "I know," I replied. "Take care of yourself." As she left, I realized that while I would miss her, this was a chance for me to focus on healing my marriage without lingering doubts. Back at therapy, I shared the news with Mark. "Jessica's moving overseas?" He looked surprised but nodded. "Maybe that's for the best." "Maybe," I echoed. Months passed, and gradually, the tension between Mark and me eased. We found ourselves laughing together again, sharing stories about the kids, and enjoying quiet evenings at home. The scars were still there, but they were healing. One evening, after the kids were asleep, Mark handed me a small box. "What's this?" I asked. "Just open it," he said softly. Inside was a necklace with a delicate infinity symbol. "I want this to represent a new beginning," he explained, "an endless commitment to you and our family." I felt tears well up. "It's beautiful," I whispered, my fingers tracing the delicate infinity symbol. Mark's eyes searched mine. "Does this mean you'll give us another chance?" he asked cautiously. I took a deep breath. Mark, this gesture means a lot to me, but rebuilding trust isn't something that can be symbolized by a necklace alone. It takes time, effort, and consistency. He nodded earnestly. I understand. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Then let's take it one step at a time, I replied softly. He smiled, a hint of relief in his expression. I'd like that. In the following weeks, we focused on reconnecting. We continued attending counseling sessions where we learned to communicate more openly and honestly. Mark made a conscious effort to be present, not just physically, but emotionally. He spent more time with the kids, helping Liam with his science projects and attending Sophie's dance recital without being glued to his phone. One evening, as we were preparing dinner together, Mark turned to me. I've been thinking about what you said, that trust has to be rebuilt. I glanced up from chopping vegetables. And I've decided to step back from some work commitments. The promotion isn't worth losing my family over. I was surprised. Are you sure? You've worked so hard for that position. He shrugged. Success means nothing if I can't share it with the people I love. I smiled gently. I appreciate that, Mark. Our conversations became deeper, more meaningful. We reminisced about how we first met, our early days of dating, and the dreams we once shared. It felt like we were rediscovering each other. One Saturday, we took the kids on a spontaneous trip to the countryside. We spent the day hiking, flying kites, and enjoying a picnic under the open sky. The laughter and joy were genuine, and for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of wholeness. That night, after putting Liam and Sophie to bed, Mark and I sat on the porch sipping tea. The silence between us was comfortable. Today was amazing, I said softly. He nodded. It was. Seeing you happy means everything to me. I looked at him, the sincerity in his eyes unmistakable. I can see how hard you're trying, Mark, and I want you to know it's making a difference. He reached out and took my hand. I love you, Emily. I love you too, I admitted, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. As the months passed, the wounds began to heal. Trust was slowly restored, not through grand gestures, but through everyday actions. Sharing chores without being asked, leaving little notes in my lunch, listening attentively when I spoke about my day. One afternoon, I received a letter from Jessica. She wrote about her new adventures abroad, how she'd started painting again, and how the distance had given her clarity. She apologized sincerely for any unintended pain and wished me all the happiness in the world. I decided to write back, expressing that I held no ill will and hoped she found fulfillment in her new journey. It felt like closing a chapter, allowing both of us to move forward. Winter arrived, and with it came the holidays. We hosted a small gathering with close family. This time, the atmosphere was warm and filled with genuine happiness. Mark stood up to make a toast. I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, he began. This year has taught me the value of family, forgiveness, and love. Emily, thank you for standing by me. I am a better man because of you. I felt a blush rise to my cheeks as everyone raised their glasses, the clinking sound accompanied by smiles and nods of approval. Later that night, as we were cleaning up, Mark pulled me into a gentle embrace. I meant every word, he whispered. I rested my head against his chest. I know. Do you ever think about renewing our vows? He asked hesitantly. I pulled back to look at him. You want to? Yes, he replied. I want to celebrate our commitment to each other, to mark this new chapter in our lives. I considered it for a moment, then smiled. I think I'd like that. Plans were made for a small, intimate ceremony in the spring. Liam and Sophie were thrilled, eager to be part of the celebration. Sophie wanted to be the flower girl, and Liam insisted on being the ring bearer. On the day of the vow renewal, surrounded by blooming flowers and our closest loved ones, Mark and I stood facing each other. The officiant nodded for Mark to begin. "Emily, 12 years ago, I vowed to love and cherish you. I failed you once, but standing here now, I promise to never take you for granted again. You are my partner, my confidant, the love of my life." Tears shimmered in my eyes as I responded, "Mark, we've had our ups and downs, but through it all, we found our way back to each other. I vow to continue growing with you, to face life's challenges together, and to never stop believing in us." We exchanged rings, a new set to symbolize our renewed commitment, and as we sealed our vows with a kiss, applause erupted around us. The kids cheered the loudest, their faces glowing with happiness. The reception was filled with laughter, music, and dancing. Watching Liam and Sophie play with their cousins, I felt a profound sense of contentment. Later that night, as we sat together under the stars, Mark took my hand. "Thank you for believing in me, in us." I leaned my head on his shoulder. "Thank you for proving that people can change." Life continued with its usual rhythm, but there was a renewed energy in our household. We faced challenges, of course, but we tackled them together, fortified by the trials we had overcome. One day, while sorting through old boxes, I came across a photo album from our early years. Flipping through the pages, I smiled at the memories. Mark joined me, and we spent the afternoon reminiscing. "Look at this one." He pointed to a photo of us at the beach, sunburned and smiling. "I remember that trip. Our car broke down, and we had to hitchhike back to the hotel." I laughed. "Best adventure ever." As we closed the album, he turned to me. "Here's to many more adventures together." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of joy. Together, our journey wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Through heartbreak and healing, we rediscovered not just each other, but also ourselves. The experience taught us that love is not just a feeling, but a choice, one we were both willing to make every single day.